have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to meet, who you're going to meet, who you're going to
So I began researching in 2010 when my first son was born. As a personal hobby, I just wanted to learn our family history and be able to pass it on to my children. One of my great-great-uncles, his name was Bishop Robert S. Williams. So I'm from Caddo Parish, Louisiana, born in Shreveport. He also was born in Caddo Parish, Louisiana in 1858 in an area called Spring Ridge. In 1894, he was elected as the sixth bishop of the denomination. So throughout his life, he pastored many churches across the United States, and ultimately he became the senior bishop of the denomination in 1919, where he remained until 1932 when he passed away. In 1902 as well as 1906, he was a member of a group which was called the African American Youth Conference, which focused on education as well as Christianity. He was a member of the committee that formed those meetings, and on that committee, Booker T. Washington was also a member. So he worked a little bit with him in those years. And also around 1907, he and Booker T. Washington also were key speakers at an event in South Carolina, which was entitled the National Negro Conference, where they basically spoke on behalf of the African American race. And they also had the governor of South Carolina and one of the former governors speak as well on behalf of the nation at large. Even today, we still have I have cousins, uncles that are all CME ministers, Baptist ministers, deacons in those denominations. So we still see a large amount of our family that's very active in their faith. I've converted, so I'm Catholic, but in that religion, I lead a adult formation group with our local Catholic Church, and I'm also a member of the Knights of Columbus. So I do a lot of also activity within my faith. I think that legacy still is there even today. What doesn't kill us make us stronger. So I think that anyone facing adversity, they should draw to their faith and their own inner strength and overcome it. Because even now, when I look back at his life, even though I've had hard times and I've been discriminated on, and I've tried to balance having a military career, getting my education, as well as being a father and a husband. He was able to accomplish all of that as well, and attended Louisiana public schools, Wiley College in Texas, Yale College, as well as Howard before he was awarded his doctorate of divinity. So if he was able to do all of that with those type of odds against him, I think that gives me encouragement and an example to meet adversity head on and continue to try to reach my goals.
So in 1974, I was a fifth grader going into the sixth grade, and the way that the federal courts decided, they took receivership of the city schools, and they decided they're going to use forced busing to bus white children into minority areas and do the opposite, so they could desegregate the school and make the population in each classroom more even. So I remember talking to my mom with my older sister, who was a year and a half older than me, when we went home that night. And you had to understand the scene. It was like electric. There were news helicopters flying around. There were riots over this in Boston at the time, and it was just it was a crazy atmosphere. And I remember. So we go into school, Mom, and my mother, she's passed away now, but she looked at us and she just said, hey, listen, I remember when Martin Luther King was assassinated. It wasn't that long ago, and I cried. you guys are going to school. Boston was broken up into some really strict ethnic lines when it came to neighborhoods. There was Roxbury and parts of Dorchester, which were historically black and Hispanic, and the rest of the city was historically white. The city of Boston, and the other two bigger states cities in the state, they decided they were going to fight this. They did not want to desegregate, and they did this by constantly going to battle in court over the act that was passed by the legislature saying it was unconstitutional. So for 9 years, they were able to slowball desegregating the schools, which is why in Massachusetts and in Boston, it didn't happen until 1974, which is an amazing thing when you think about where we come in this country. It wasn't that long ago that this happened. And normally you would see kids coming out of their houses all with their school bags, almost similar to today. But this day, it was just us. We walked out of our house, and other than the news helicopters, the streets were pretty much barren. It was a really crazy scene, and for us. And we walked about 5 blocks up to our bus stop where we were going to get our bus that was going to take us to the school. And we stood out there by ourselves, my sister and I, and eventually two more students showed up. So our bus driver, John, he was I found out later, he was a Vietnam vet, and as we're getting on the bus, he takes out a steel pot and puts it on. And he goes, "Okay, kids, this is going to be the ride of your life." The bus monitor gave us a safety brief, and this was us. Says, "Okay, once we go over the bridge into South Boston," because we lived right on the Dorchester line, "you kids are going to have to get on the floor." And the streets were lined with our neighbors, mostly all white folks. And as the bus approached, I don't know where they got all the rocks and stones and bottles, but they just started stoning the bus, breaking the windows, throwing bottles at the bus. After we got up off the floor, and we entered Roxbury, I was wondering if we were going to get the same order to get on the floor, because there were lines of people on the street, mostly African American, all African American, and as we passed through them, there were no rocks or anything thrown, but I noticed that there was riot police there, and the riot police, from my memories as a young, were very heavy-handed. These folks weren't doing anything, and apparently when I look back at the history and read about it, a lot of people came out just to see what was going to happen and if any white students would show up. Because to them, having the white students show up was a big thing, because they felt, you know what, we'll finally get some money for our schools. So, there was two different sides to it. So later on, when I became a police officer, I always remembered that as a police officer, there's a history when dealing with minorities. And I always train my officers and myself that, hey, you got to go the extra mile to get that trust based on the history.
Me and Mike both were born and raised in Germany, both with German-American families, German-American background, sharing the love for music. Met when we were about 15 years old, in different clubs and events where we were DJing, which is both of our passion. Mike always talked about joining the military. So from the moment we met, he always thought, one day I'll join the army. And then when he was 20, that's what he did, joined the army. He was a communications soldier, infantry guy, and actually in the first few years already attached to a special forces unit that he also deployed with. So he was a communications soldier. He was stationed in Germany a total of 3 times, and so he had a lot of connections here already. So on the weekends he was always out DJing. He was also very well known in his hometown and in the Stuttgart area where he was stationed at. Mike was somebody that always looked out for you. He wanted you to do better. So sometimes even when you thought you cannot accomplish something, but Mike believed in you, and he knew that you can accomplish that, he pushed you and talked to you and made sure you accomplish your goal. Probably something that you didn't even know you can accomplish. After Mike graduated the qualification course for Special Forces in 2013, he went to Ranger School in 2015. But what people don't know, a lot of people don't know, is that Mike went to Ranger School before, a couple of years earlier, and during the course, he received a letter that his mom was really sick, and without hesitation, he left the course and went back to be with his mom, to support his mom, probably knowing that he won't get the chance to go back to Ranger School. And that just showed that Mike was big on family. So if Mike thought of you in that manner, then that means a lot to him, because family and his friends were everything to him. And he had the opportunity to go back to Ranger School in 2015, graduated, but during the second time, he had a close friend going with him, and he experienced something similar to Mike the first time he went. His grandpa passed away, so Mike took him under his wing, talked to him, mentored him, and his friend ended up going home to attend a funeral for his grandfather. And after Mike graduated, he didn't go out and celebrate. He sat down and wrote a letter to his friend and just encouraged him that he can make it, and that he'll get the chance to come back and will graduate Ranger School. And that's something that just tells a lot about Mike. So Mike's father is African American. He also served in the U.S. military, was stationed in Germany at the time when he was born. His mom's German. And then just like me, born over here, we're having American family and German family connected us. But his parents still live in Germany, both. His dad now retired. His mom being German. They both live here in Germany, and that's why Mike was laid to rest in Germany, because they wanted him close over here in Germany. And it's good for me too, because it gives me the chance to visit him regularly, which I do. Like, I go see him at least once a month, at least. Mike died doing what he loved to do, like wearing his boots, like basically facing the enemy and fighting the enemy to destroy the enemy with his brothers on his side, his extended family. Like, I know Mike wouldn't want to be anywhere else but right there fighting with them. And that is sometimes, in the beginning, it's hard, but I know that's what he wanted, and he wouldn't have wanted it any other way.
My father, William Dr. Jr., he was drafted into World War II. And he told me many times, don't go in the military, don't go in the military, don't go in the military. But I didn't listen to him. I decided to come into the military anyway. So my first duty assignment, which was in Nuremberg, Germany, I was denied promotion from PFC to E4. I was devastated. I was hurt because of my skin color. I was not able to get the promotion when I should have. So I made an EO complaint. After I made the EO complaint, the very next month, I was promoted to the grade of E4. So to avoid animosity among the service member and myself, they moved me into the PAC, which was a long time ago called Personal Action Center. Today is called Human Resources Specialist. So I was really, really devastated. I was hurt because I had never experienced stuff like this. You know, coming from Brooklyn, New York, I grew up, I didn't experience stuff like this. But my father would always tell me, don't go in the military, don't go in the military. But he would never tell me why. So by me coming in the military, after my time was up here in Nuremberg, Germany, I decided to get out. So I got out for about maybe 7 years. Then I decided to come back in. When I came back in as a 42 Alpha, which is Human Resource Specialist with the identifier of postal. So by me coming back into the military, I'm here today. I've made history because I'm the first female postmaster in Europe. So because of what I had to go through early part of my military career, I made history. And, you know, it's an honor because, you know, today's world, you know, some people feel as though females should not be at the top. And I made history. I didn't know that. Had I known I made history, I would probably not have taken this position because I'm more of a behind the scene person. I don't like to be in the front. I'm more of a behind the scene person. So I feel like it's an honor to be where I'm at today. But because what I went through years and years ago is where I'm postmaster today. Don't give up, because we have to go through trials and tribulations in life, and you have to just keep going and going and going, Because when you give up, you just you letting yourself down. You letting your friends down, your family. Because, you know, we have to go through some stuff in life. Everything is not going to be easy.
You have to be your biggest fan. And when things are really tough and they're really rough and nothing's working, but there's something inside of you that says, I just have to follow that. Because you don't know who you're going to meet.